Story 1. Just to preface, my former brother-in-law did take the kids away from my sister. She is a narcissist and a master manipulator. She probably would have had no problem lying in court to get her way if it were not for the overwhelming evidence against her. Her ex-husband took the kids and did not bring them back once he was certain she could not do anything about it. Soon after, the court granted him majority custody. My sister now only sees her kids about 2 days a month and on some holidays. This particular incident goes back to the winter of 2023, before my sister was evicted from the family property. At that time, her boyfriend had recently passed away in a car accident that quite possibly was not an accident. Technically, she had just broken up with him because he had cheated on her, and she repeatedly cried to me that she was not a cheater herself. That was an outright lie, as she had 3 affairs that we knew of while still married to her ex-husband. She still thinks I do not know. By that time, she was barely home 2 nights a week. My parents and I were the ones taking care of and paying to feed her kids because she was not coming home to do it. She would call her kids, ask them what they wanted for dinner, and then not even show up. Our mother got mad at her and, over text, told her she had abandoned her children. My sister, verbatim, responded, "Lol, no, I didn't." She never grew out of her teenage mentality, even after having 3 kids and her husband joining the military to better support them. She was still acting like an irresponsible teenager. My mother and I got in touch with my former brother-in-law to tell him everything because my sister had her kids so brainwashed that they did not tell him much until he made them tell him everything. Any good clothes my nephews had, they would only keep at their father's house because they did not want them torn up by the dogs or smelling like dog waste. I found out my nephews had no winter clothes at my sister's trailer when my youngest nephew woke me up early one November morning to ask for a ride to school because he had missed the bus. He was standing at my door in 39-degree weather, shivering in nothing but a t-shirt and shorts, and his shoes were falling apart. I asked him where his coat was, and he said he did not have one anymore. While driving him to school, I told him I was going to buy him a coat. He literally said, I'm and not that sea cold, I responded. Dude, I'm looking at you shivering right now. His shoes were in such bad condition that he could barely walk in them. He had to do this awkward shuffle because the bottoms were coming apart. That night, I super glued them back together. The next day, I went out and bought him a coat at a thrift store, and he wore it to school right away. Then, on the weekend, I took him out clothes shopping and practically bought him a whole wardrobe. He did not even have decent socks. He was borrowing socks from his brothers and even his mother. I bought him socks, then took him to a thrift store with great prices and got him a pair of good black sneakers, 2 or 3 long-sleeved shirts, 2 sweatshirts, 3 pairs of pants, since he had nothing but summer shorts, a pair of gloves, and a knit cap. We rushed everything into the washing machine, and he wore the new clothes to school that Monday. The following weekend, I took my middle nephew out and bought him new socks, along with about the same amount of thrift store clothes. He still wears the green hoodie I got for him back then. I bought him several pairs of pants, several shirts and sweatshirts, and a big, thick coat, which he really liked. He was wearing that stuff as soon as possible, too. The only thing he did not need was shoes. I am on a fixed income, and this was not very long before Thanksgiving and Christmas. But I spent about $200 on clothes for those kids because they needed them. My eldest nephew was already living with his dad full-time, so he was fine. I also lent my youngest nephew a Timber Ridge camping cot so he would have a decent bed. His tiny room in the trailer had a couch bed previously, but moisture and dogs had destroyed it. I also bought him a sleeping bag because he was not sleeping well due to the cot getting cold on the underside. I ended up getting blankets and pillows for both of those kids. After my sister was evicted, we cleaned out the trailer and found out she not only had a brand new sleeping bag in storage, but also had a hoard of unused blankets hidden under her bed. Oh, we were so mad. She let her kids be cold when she had those supplies the whole time. In the summer of 2023, all 3 of my nephews were allowed to live in tents around the yard, which they preferred over living in the trailer with their mom, her boyfriend, and the stinky dogs. I ran power cords from my house to all 3 of their tents, got all 3 of them fans and ice coolers, and lent 2 of them camping cots to sleep on. I also let the eldest stay in my camper trailer from time to time. When I tell people this story, the first thing they usually say is, "You're a good uncle." Meanwhile, my sister was busy drinking, partying, using illegal substances, fighting with her lousy boyfriend, and making trouble for all of us. We worked in secret with my former brother-in-law to make sure those kids were safe. He took them that December and then took my sister back to court. Before anyone points it out, my parents and I deeply regret not taking action sooner. But my sister had us all mentally beaten down. She is a chronic manipulator who makes up false stories and spreads lies. She had people all over the area believing the nonsense she said about our parents. My parents could not go to the local restaurant without getting side glances from people. However, after we kicked out my sister, all of that stopped. She was poisoning everyone against our parents, and she wonders why we finally had enough of her. Story 2. Back in 2010, I got a job working for a company that has an unofficial food item where you put $1 menu sandwich into another. I worked there for a year and a half. During that time, I learned everything. I could open, close, work the grill very well, and work the front counter and drive-through as well, if not better, than most that worked there on a consistent basis. I'd been promised a review when I was hired that was to take place after 6 months of being there. Being the kind of employee that wants to move up in the company, I never pushed the issue, but instead kept pushing to learn everything I could, so that when I did get my review, I would get a good one. In my time there, I called off once because I was recovering from emergency surgery to get rid of a pilonidal cyst that had ruptured. On the same token, I was always the first to volunteer to pick up a shift if it didn't interfere with my college classes. After being there a year and a half, they announced everyone would be getting a review. My general manager came to me and told me the time she wanted to schedule me for my raise. I told her, at that time, that I would be needing a quarter raise, $10 a week, in order to make it so I could sustain working there while going to college, and she said she understood. When my review came, I was floored. Despite all of the work I had put in and the energy I had poured into my job, hoping to reach management while going to college, she assessed me as a meets expectations employee. I don't mean to sound cocky, but I knew my own value as an employee. I knew I more than exceeded expectations of an employee of that company, and I said as much. She tried to claim it was based on the consensus of the other managers, but I knew myself to be a favorite employee of every manager but her. She then told me that she would be giving me a 15-cent raise. I told her I had requested a quarter, and she said that 15 cents was the best she could do. The wheels turned in my head, and I knew I was undervalued by her, and I would never have a chance to move up. So I told her I would be putting in my 2 weeks' notice. She looked at me as if I had slapped her and said, "You're leaving over 10 cents?" I looked her right in the eyes as I said, "No, you're losing a fully cross-trained employee that loves her job over 10 cents. I then stood up and walked out to my car. I did write out a 2 weeks' notice and immediately began looking for work. During my search, when she worked with me, she'd frequently tell me how someone of my experience couldn't hope to get a job making the $8 I'd requested of them. Well, I did, and then some. I applied to a gas station that was obsessed with the letter Z on the East Coast, and was to work in their kitchen overnight. I'd be making $12 an hour if I got the job. I called literally every day until I got an interview. I had my interview the night of my last call, and was given the job on the spot. With 5 days left on my notice, I informed her that I had gotten a job, where I'd gotten it, and how much I'd be making. If looks could kill, I'd have never been able to start at my other job because of the dirt I'd be buried under. To get back at me, she wanted the one thing I treasured most. As an employee working for that company, they'd give you pins you could put on your hat to show your accomplishments. In a year and a half, I'd earned over 30 pins. I was proud of them and considered them a collection. She told me that after my last shift, I'd have to return my uniforms and all of my pins. I claimed the pins were mine as payment for things I had done, but she told me she would make sure I'd be docked the cost of the pins out of my last paycheck if I didn't return them. She did it. Despite everything I'd worked for to turn this in my favor, she got under my skin, so I decided to get her back. Not wanting to completely burn a bridge, I came up with an idea I can confidently say was my own, but had been done before on some shows I'd never seen at the time. I decided to suspend them in Jell-O. The night before my last shift, I cooked up a large bowl of Jell-O. Before putting it in the fridge, I tied strings around my pins and suspended them at various points throughout the bowl by taping the string ends to the outside of the bowl. I let it cool overnight. After I finished my last shift, I told my manager I was running home to get my uniforms and pins. I returned a half an hour later with my Jell-O overturned onto a plate. "I'll always miss you," plate. Then I put the uniforms on the floor next to her desk, and looking her dead in the eye, placed the Jell-O on her desk, and said, "Here's your pins." I walked out without waiting for her response, and decided never to go there again. My roommate, who also worked there, told me that it was all her coworkers could talk about all day. I was at least able to take some satisfaction in the fact that maybe I would inspire some other shenanigans from my coworkers if they, too, decided that company was not for them. As a reminder, people don't quit bad jobs, they quit bad managers. Story 3. I was employed at a rather large factory, which is one of the largest plant-based companies in the world, recently bought by an investment firm not so long ago. Anyways, I developed a program which was used at the factory. It could tell whenever any machines were not running, even if it was due to a manual stop or anything else. My program knew the reason why the machine was idling. This program made it so much easier for the entire factory. Workers were happy because they didn't need to do any manual work and write down every time the machine stopped. Lead up to about a year ago. Factory appoints a new chief. All the old employees that were in a leader position were let go because it was time for new blood to come in. There was a lot of talk about selling off parts of the factory, including machines and so on. This included programs that I had developed, including the program that identified whenever a machine stopped. I developed this program in my spare time, showed it to the old management, and they liked it enough that they wanted to use it on every station in the factory. Every machine was to use this program. All that had to be done was for the program to be maintained weekly. This was around 5 years ago or so. When the newly appointed factory chief wanted to let the old employees, me included, leave, it was not known that I was the person behind that program. Anyways, at my meeting with HR and the factory chief, I said that I was willing to sell them the program and teach someone how to maintain the program. The factory chief laughed in my face and said it was company property and that it was simply their program and not mine. I offered to show them the source code and everything, but it led up to the point where if I was to tamper with the program before my departure, they would sue me. I was officially let go. 2-month countdown began, and after 2 months I was free. After a week or so, they noticed problems with the program. It would stop loading, stop registering stops, and it would mislabel stops. I knew that this was when the fun was about to begin. After a month, I was called into the office and was told that I had tampered with the program because it had suddenly stopped working. I let them know that someone had to maintain it. I was ordered to teach someone how to do that job, and I told them, after you pay me for the program rights. They wouldn't budge, and I was told to return to work. When I had a week left, I strolled around the factory floor for a while and noticed that no stations were running my program anymore. I asked some operators why that was, and they told me that it just stopped working. Now we need to fill out forms every time the machine stops manually. I shrugged and told them to thank the factory chief. I left after that week, got a phone call about a month after I left where they begged me to sell them the rights and teach someone how to maintain it. I never sold them that program. Instead, I sold an improved version to another factory nearby, where I am now employed. Edit. I see some are saying that I am in the wrong based on US law. Just editing here to let you know that this did not take place in the US. I made the program during my spare time at home on my own computer. After introducing the program to the former factory chief, I was allowed to try it out on one machine and test it. The maintenance was done on my office computer. After a few months, I was allowed to roll it out for the entire factory. It wasn't done overnight, lots of debugging to do. I have not heard anything from the company for nearly a year, so it would be weird for them to suddenly come after me now. Just wanted to make that clear. Story 4. I've posted 3 stories of my neighbor Karen, and this was finally the last straw. To recap the events in order. 1. She came into my house without knocking. 2. Her side of the complex didn't have running water, so she used my bathroom, only to spill the beans of my pregnancy to my aunt and uncle before I was able to. 3. Tried to convince my hubby I was cheating. Now this time she has crossed the biggest line and I am pressing charges. Last week was my 20-week ultrasound and sex reveal of the baby. I had arranged it with my doctor to have them mail me the gender and not tell me so that I could have a small gathering to reveal it to close friends and family. I had lost one of my mail keys a few days prior. Now I know I didn't actually lose it, but I wasn't worried because I had a few copies. Yesterday I was supposed to get the letter from my doctor in the mail. Only when I checked my mailbox, it was empty. Thinking that the mail was just delayed, I figured I'd try again today. While I was visiting with my aunt and uncle, they got a knock on their door, and there was Karen holding a pink bag and a balloon that said, "It's a girl," on it. Oh, I saw me was here and figured I'd stop by. Sorry, what? My aunt was confused. Karen proceeds to come in, scooting around my aunt and walking over to me. Congratulations, a little girl. I'm sorry, I didn't know what she was talking about. You're having a girl. How would you know? Oh, I just happened to get your letter from the doctor yesterday. And you opened it. Of course. I was dying to know what you guys were having. I hope you don't mind. That's a federal offense, and now there's 3 witnesses to your confession. Oh, don't be like that. We're all as close as family, right? My husband then yelled at her. Out. Get out before I let my wife beat you to a pulp. I was fuming and doing my best to restrain myself from doing exactly that. Karen says, I was just trying to be neighborly. I shot up out of my seat, and that made her drop the bag and book it out of there. Once she was gone, I broke down and started crying. My family tried to soothe me. Once I composed myself, I called the local non-emergency police number and told them what happened. They sent an officer here to get our statements, and we all watched as he went to her door, talked to her for a little bit, and then put her in handcuffs before putting her in the back of his cruiser. All the while she was insisting she did nothing wrong. The officer came over, told us that they'll be in touch with a court date, and took her away. Story 5. So it's the first week of school, and my nephew Andy and his friend Falcon are attending the same school again. This, however, is a new school, not the last one. Both my sister-in-law and my neighbor Sissy, Falcon's mother, have me on their emergency contact list, and given that I have an active role in both the boys' lives, I was asked to come in and walk the halls, do the meet and greet, and fill out some information. I've been given this little yellow card for when they get off the bus, as Clarissa and Sissy are both at work. The boys and little Beth will be chilling at my house after school. I have a card for Beth as well. All things are good and everyone's happy. Later, I'm waiting at the bus stop in my Toyota Civic, which is immediately a ricer. I've a kit on it that kinda makes it look like a Skyline. I'm driving it a lot right now because I've agreed to give it up to my niece for her 16th, and I want more time with my first car after putting almost 10 years of work into it. Things start when I hear a lady, we'll call her Karen, not because she's a Karen, but because I know that's her name, talking badly about my car. She's over there standing outside her Ford Focus, looking like the mean witch she always is. I know Karen well enough. Her son, who I will call Dennis like the menace, was once Falcon's friend, and would be at my house with Andy and Falcon, and their other friend Puck. Puck is not his name, but I call him that, and it's a nickname that sticks. He looks like the character from Gargoyles when I was little, Little boy with long platinum blonde hair and elven features. He likes the nickname, his parents get the joke, but he is a timid, effeminate little boy. So, a little backstory on why I'm bringing this up. Puck, Dennis, Andy, and Falcon were over my house a lot. Puck would come by all the time to get Otter Pops or fruit snacks or muffins randomly, even when Andy wasn't around. He's a good kid. They would play with him all the time. Then one day, he stopped coming over when Andy and Falcon were over, but would still stop by randomly. So I had noticed Dennis being a brat to Puck, and I had a couple of times stopped Andy and Falcon from being mean or saying mean things to the kid. They never mistreated this kid before Dennis started hanging out with them. Turns out, Karen, Dennis' mom, is like hardcore this West Barrow Baptist-style Christian, and thinks little Puck is a sinner and didn't want Dennis hanging around him. She even came to my house and talked to me saying she didn't want Puck there when Dennis was there, which I kindly told her to go get lost. You don't dictate what happens in my home. She hit me up with the "you're not even the kid's father" kinda nonsense. Falcon's dad was still alive at this point, so I asked him to go tell her to go get lost. Sissy doesn't like her in any way. Well, I came to find out from Puck's mother that Dennis had told Puck he couldn't play with them at my house anymore, and Dennis had beat up Puck. I went to talk to Dennis about this later when he was at my house, and he said his mom told him it was okay cause Dennis was a sinner and he was going to hell. These kids are not even 11 yet. So I went to talk to Karen, who was a real witch about it, like terrible, and I ended up saying that Dennis couldn't come back to my house. Also, I talked to Falcon and Andy about what Dennis did, has been saying, and talked to their parents. End result, neither Clarissa or Sissy wanted their kids to be around Dennis. Sissy didn't like Dennis because of all the trouble he caused in her house. This was just the final straw, so fast forward. Karen is giving me the stink eye, and I'm just ignoring her. The bus comes. Andy and Falcon get off. They come to the car. All the kids are fascinated by my car, and I hardly let the kids ride in it instead of my truck because, well, I worked all summer long back in 2006 to get those fancy seats and stuff. I usually don't even like to have little kids in it, but I'm cruising and we're gonna go to Rita's today. Italian Ice. A bunch of the neighborhood kids come up and they talk and ask about the car. I'm letting them see the inside, though I'm wiping hands and whatever. I got a little thing on the front like Knight Rider. Yes, I'm a nerd, but it's cool. Buses come. We wait for Beth's bus. She goes to a different school, and eventually Dennis gets off the bus. He sees Andy and Falcon. He sees the car. He sees me. He comes over. Now I can be a jerk and tell the kid to get lost. But I'm not particularly venomous about the kid. He comes up and his mother comes quickly. He asks me if he can see the car. He's always been into it. I look at Andy and Falcon, who are like, not sure what to do. And I'm like, sure, Dennis, take a mask. Wipe your hands. I got a box of masks and gloves and hand wipes and stuff. Half of that nonsense was in the car before COVID. But you know, little kids can't be vaccinated, and they got grubby little Cheeto hands. His mom doesn't like this. I hear her screech. What's going on? What are you telling him? He is actually cool about it. He says, it's okay, Mom. He just asked me to wipe my hands and wear a mask. He's gonna let me sit in the front. She starts in with a, why does he have to wear a mask? The other kids aren't wearing a mask. I told her the ones who jumped in my car got a mask and had to wipe their hands. She then goes off about COVID and blah, blots. But then takes a turn when she says something in her tirade about me luring kids to me with my car, which I had to stop. Now Andy, my nephew, has been in the car many times. He knows that if you lift the thing in the back seat, there's a cooler down there, and so he goes for the snacks. He always does, while this crazy lady is yelling at me. After a moment of craziness, and the boys munching on chips, Beth shows up. I'm so happy. I close my doors, lock them, and go get her. I come back. Karen is still at my car, waiting to fuss at me. Dennis is waiting to get into the car. I tell him, maybe next time, 'cause I just want to leave. He asks if he can have a snack. I look at his mom, and she goes, what, you're not even going to offer him a snack? You gave the other kids snacks. Technically, Andy gave Falcon, and the little Asian Indian kid, I don't know his name, snacks from my car, if he didn't give Dennis one that was intentional. I know Andy, and he's a little stinker in the making. But I'm like, sure, fine. What do you want? We got chips and juice and some mini Snickers. All stuff I can't eat no more on my diet. But I keep my car and my shelves stocked. Gotta use that Costco card for something. Dennis does not want a snack now. He wants to get into the car. I think he thinks it's either or, like he can't do both. His mom snarls and tells him to get a snack. Then Beth asks if we're going to Rita's, and I say, yeah, we'll go to Rita's, and she says she hopes they have the birthday cake. Dennis goes, oh, birthday cake, can I go? And I don't want to say, hey, you mini hate crime to kids, so Sissy and Clarissa don't want you around their kids, and I don't particularly like you, which would be the truth. Instead, I immediately get slick at the mouth and say, I don't think that's a good idea. Wouldn't want to lure you in with my car and the promise of treats. Looking directly at his mom, who then lays into me for not offering to take the kid. Not 5 minutes after she said that nonsense earlier. She then starts talking loud and getting the other parents there involved. But this is my neighborhood, and most of these people know me, Andy and Falcon, and Dennis has been a little brat forever, and people are tired of Karen. So, thankfully, the most unlikely person in the world spoke up. The old Asian lady was so sweet. I didn't think she spoke English or spoke it well. But she told her to shut up and take her bad kid home, and I heard that clear enough. Folks were laughing. She scowled at me, and I told Dennis he could sit in the front seat before he left if his mom agreed. Of course she didn't. Called me a jerk and drug her kid off. After that we went to Rita's and all was good, but I heard the kids talking about Dennis' crazy mom the whole time. I tried to stir the conversation away, talking about the first day of school and all that, but nope, they wanted to talk about Dennis and his crazy mom. So yeah, that's my experience with an entitled mom. Problem is, this is probably going to be a thing since we pick up the kids at around the same time. Throughout the rest of the week, she only glared at me from her punk car, and Dennis has arrived before Andy and Falcon since, so it's not been a huge deal, but I'm sure that woman's a ticking time bomb. Story 6. This was a few years ago. My mom was late 30s. Babysitter, Maya, was 15-16. My sister, Eva, was 11. I was 19. Names have been changed for privacy. My mom is a single parent and has been for over a decade now. She lives in her late father's house, which she does not own, but no one in our family wanted her and my sister to be homeless. All of her bills, water, gas, electric, and sometimes groceries when she forgets to renew SNAP benefits, were paid by her grandma. My mom had a job at a local gas station. Her shift started at 3 a.m., and she wanted my sister's babysitter to show up at 2 or 2:30 a.m. My mom had problems paying the babysitter on time, and one week just didn't pay her at all. Maya told my mom that if she didn't pay her this time, she wasn't going to come back next week. My mom basically told her she was going to come back whether she was paid or not because Eva and my mom needed her. So my mom didn't pay her, and Maya didn't show up the next Saturday. My mom refused to go into work for the whole weekend and started calling Maya to tell her that Maya owed her money for making her miss work. She says that she owed Maya $40, but by missing work on Saturday, she missed out on making $80 on her check. She wanted Maya to pay her $80, but since she owed Maya money, my mom wanted to be nice by only asking for $40 and not making her pay for Sunday too. Maya refused to come back and babysit ever again and told other teen babysitters to avoid working for my mom. Around this time, I came back from my first year in college and was looking for a place to live until I found an apartment. My mom offered to let me live with her until I found a place, on the condition that I was always available to watch my sister when she needed me. I agreed and moved in. I also worked and paid for groceries while saving money for when I moved out. She had been moved to the late afternoon shift because she wasn't showing up for the morning shift. Her shift started at 2 p.m., and I clocked out of my job at noon. We didn't have a car, so we walked everywhere. Her walk to work was 15 minutes and mine was about 10 minutes. One day, We had a meeting at work, and it ran late. I clocked out at 12:10. As I walked outside, I pulled out my phone to call my mom and tell her I just left work and would be home soon. But I found a voicemail from my mom that she left at like 12:02, telling me that I was irresponsible and inconsiderate, and if I couldn't call her when I was on my way home, then I could live somewhere else. By the time the voicemail ended, I was walking up the driveway, and my mom and sister were outside watering plants. I told her why I was late, and she told me not to listen to the voicemail she had left and delete it. A month or two later, I found a place to rent with 2 roommates. I told my mom I was moving 2 weeks before we were set to move in, so she could work on finding a babysitter. She told me that she would work on it, but if she didn't find one, she expected me to still come back to her house and watch my sister every day. She also still wanted me to pay for groceries after I moved out. After 2 weeks, she still hadn't found a babysitter, so I continued to watch my sister after I moved for about a week and a half. I was working from 3 a.m. to noon, then going to my mom's house and taking care of my sister and the house until my mom came home around midnight, when her shift ended at 9. Then I would go to my place, get maybe 2 hours of sleep, and have to be up for work again. I told my mom I wasn't going to do it anymore, reminded her that she started leaving me and our brother alone when we were 5 and 6, and that Eva didn't really need a babysitter at 11. She had a breakdown, told me it was my fault if she lost her job and Eva got taken away from her. She stopped going to work and got fired. It has been 4 years and only recently started working again about 3 months ago.